no unified economic agenda. Where's the FBA unified economic agenda? That's what I want to know. Few institutions, no banks. Maybe ChatGPT got it wrong. Maybe y'all got banks. I'm feeling to see some banks. So I was watching a great gentleman SETI, General SETI. If you look historically at, or even now at American war policy, right, or war tactics, these dudes are only getting into fights where they are extremely outgunning their opponent, right? You don't see any of these men willing to go hand to hand with people, right? This was the point he's making, that they're only willing to fight with someone if they have, 10 guns, a rocket launcher, a tank. So these dudes are not fighting on an equal playing ground. And this spills into America domestically, right? On an international level, we know they don't give a damn about nobody, because we saw in Laos what they did, right? There are also other examples, more recent examples. These laws, this Second Amendment laws, right, were originally, they had firearms and y'all didn't. So they were allowed, especially in Florida, 1825, they were allowed to go into Negroes' houses and lawfully seize, take away all the weapons and ammunition. So you see, they want something that you don't have. They want to always have that upper hand on you. You see, this is from the beginning of the country, not long ago, right? 250-year-old country. We're not talking about 2,000 years ago, right? I don't know, y'all in for a rude awakening. I see a lot of, particularly influencers in recent past few months, just getting completely cooked, because they've dedicated their whole lives, their whole career to being, a shoulder for white to cry on. They're always going against blacks. Anything happens with a black and a white, they're always taking the black side. And again, you have a lot of whites that do the same thing, but they don't succeed. People that have that type of serious bias, because look, everybody knows that all white people are not good. Everyone knows that all black people are not good, or all black people are not bad, and all white people are not bad. So if you are under the impression that your whole race can do no wrong, you're in for a rude awakening. You're gonna get scammed galore, because you're gonna end up tying yourself to people who, just because, like an FBA, for example, if an FBA believes that FBAs are the only ones to be trusted, hard red line, not trusting no blacks not from America, quote unquote tethers, not trusting no tethers, not trusting no Asians, no whites, right? You're gonna get robbed by an FBA. Some FBA is gonna borrow money and not pay you back. Some FBA gonna smash your girl. You can't just go on these like tribal ideas. That's ridiculous. Same thing for white people. The white people that think, oh, only blacks commit crimes. Only these people do this. Oh, the Jews, right? These people that want to always blame, right, everyone else but themselves, they fall into the same issue, right? You can't just live based on race. Race is not the be all end all. I give you an example here. When you look at the KKK, which is a lovely American Protestant-led Christian extremist group, okay, Christian Protestant extremist group, okay, interesting. So noted. When you look at these movements, a lot of their downfall came from within. They had sexual scandals. If you know the history of the Klan, they had financial scandals. So people was robbing money, people was smashing girls, probably underage girls for all we know, right? And this was only their people. Huh. So imagine they thought that in their utopia of not only just whites, but whites that they completely align with, that they agree with damn near everything, but they still managed to have these issues, right? So why is that? It's because there's no group that's infallible. There's no group that is not going to screw you over if you think that they're only good. That's the best way to fail. So that's why when I see the majority of whites who are like these whites only, white first type of people, they're not successful. The successful racists are inwardly racist and they don't talk about it, whatever. They still do business, they still hire different races, they still They may eat at different restaurants, ethnic restaurants, but they may be racist. They may not want their daughter to marry outside of their race, but they're not gonna be out here on the YouTube, you know, like if a black person dies, they're not gonna be out here celebrating, dancing on the corpse. They're not gonna be out here, posting, whites gotta stand up. Nah, if you look at, in England, Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson is a guy. He's like a far right mover in the UK. He had one of his rallies. If you look at these dudes, a lot of these dudes, you don't see very many Chads. You don't see Chads complaining about in America. You don't see Chads complaining about blacks taking their girls because Chads get married at 18, 19, 20. They snatched up their high school sweetheart and they got married and that's it. Chads are off the market or they become absolute machines and they just shred through girls, right? But they're not complaining that blacks are taking their girls. The dudes that are complaining about quote unquote mud sharks and going on the street and interviewing girls trying to bait them, those are the dudes that are not having success with women. Those are the dudes that are not the cool kid. Those are the dudes that need to blame and point finger on everybody but themselves. They won't work on themselves. They won't go to the gym. They won't read a book to get some sort of a more developed mind rather than just always talking about immigration and the left wing and the blacks and the crime. They don't elevate themselves mentally. They don't elevate themselves physically, but they for some reason think that they're entitled to a 10 on 10 white girl just because they're white. And the white girls are saying, nah, we're not with it. The white girls are not with it. So the FBAs, that's why generally, generationally, they don't get any motion. The whole time that they're hating on other people, why hasn't this been done? How many years has FBA been around? How many years have y'all been, drinking the Kool-Aid, blaming the white man? The white man don't care about y'all. The only whites that are involved with y'all is, like I said, the ones at the bottom. And y'all duking it out together. Blacks that are getting rich and getting the hell away from y'all. And you got the whites that are rich that you never see. You could dream about it. And then you got those lower level whites who interacting with y'all. And that's the real racial tension is in these neighborhoods. And I go at white people too. Those white people that want to talk about all this racial stuff. And I go at them too, right? I have no hate, but I press them with hard questions. I tell them often, I say, look, I realize that the most white people that complain about blacks is poor whites because when you're talking about people who are low income, there's going to be high crime regardless of race. So if you're around low income people, you're going to be around criminal blacks because you're also going to be around criminal whites. And they don't like that very much because I'm basically telling them, yeah, I see you. I know what neighborhood you live in if you're complaining about black people because I don't know any rich people that complain about black people unless it's performative and it's political. But real people that, just private people that are not public figures, just people that hop in their Bentley and go to work, they're not complaining about black people. So y'all need to do some building and stop the complaining. You're not going to get reparations. It's not happening. There's no money for y'all. You've seen I can't understand how an FBA would watch over the years 10, 20, 30, 40, 60, 100 years would watch as billions of dollars are sent overseas. Billions of dollars are sent to Ukraine, Middle East, etc. Right? You name it. Billions of dollars. And y'all have not got a dollar. And you never will. You never will because the economy is not on the upswing right now. I don't know if y'all know, right? But the American economy is doing very poorly right now, and it's on a downtrend. Okay, globally, it's on a downtrend. This is why you see so much racial tension being stoked because these people are the people on the ground are trying to distract themselves from the reality that there's no money. The drip is slowing up. It's a slow drip, and it's soon gonna be no drip. Right? There's no money. There's no economy. These tariffs are backfiring. You have China laughing. China's saying, "Oh, you guys tariffed our meat. Now we buy meat from Australia. It's better quality. You have other countries that don't even engage in any trade. It's just performative tariffs. Most countries don't care about these tariffs. It's just to make Americans think that Trump is being tough on other countries, when in reality, Trump, since he came back, pure garbage, pure garbage. And y'all gonna see next 5 years, US is cooked. And that's why they're stoking so hard to have this internal unrest, because when there's unrest, people are not concentrating so much on the poor governance. They're concentrating on the fact that, oh, this black dude, one out of millions of blacks that take the public transit every day, stabbed a woman. I'm not diminishing. It was a heinous crime. It was disgusting. I wouldn't want anyone to take part in that type of violence. It was an innocent girl. I'm not saying that, right? But I'm saying, out of that guy, how many millions of black Americans take public transit and don't do that? How many millions of black Americans take public transit and aren't committing violent crimes, theft? How many millions per day? But they want to concentrate on the one, and they hyper focus on it purposefully, right? This is by design. They hyper focus on it to rile up ignorant people on both sides. On the reals, it's just the bottom of the bottom are fighting over this stuff, when really the issue is not with each other. The issue is not with immigrants. The immigrants are not taking your gerbs. The immigrants are not crashing your economy. It's the fact that Americans don't produce. It's the fact that people now are in their phones. They want to be they want to become crypto millionaires. Youth doesn't want to work, right? If you look at white people, for example, white people used to, like, young white men, right? These same ones that are going up in colleges and doing the pew pew stuff, is because they don't have an outlet. White men used to, play guitar, they used to skateboard. Now they ain't doing nothing. They're all online. They're all video gaming. They're not doing nothing. Didn't do nothing. That's what is the problem in America. And it's not racial. It's across the board. All races in America are not what they once were. They're not what they once were. And that the manufacturing is not coming back because people don't have the same work ethic. Everyone's on their phone. I see crossing guards on their phone. You're supposed to be helping children get across the street for school, and you're watching TikTok. That's the level of depravity of American culture, the Western culture in general. Americans are not what they once were. They are not producing. And that's why the military is so strong. There's such military might, because their economy now is based off of what they could pillage from other countries. And that's why they're ramping up this whole rhetoric with the Middle East, and they're trying to do these deals and all this stuff. This all boils down to the economy is cooked. And what happens to people who are already cooked, namely the FBAs? What happens to people who are already cooked once the country gets really cooked? Y'all gonna be double cooked. Y'all gonna be, well done steak. Put a fork in it. You're finished, right? So, I mean, my suggestion would be y'all better start looking at these African and Caribbeans like, yo. So a lot of these Africans, they may come there, they're gonna make their money, they're gonna dip. They're putting their money in their community, they're sending money back to Africa, they're doing trade. These people are importing stuff, they open up shops, they got their African fruits and vegetables shipped in. These people, they're organized, they know what they're doing. They speak several languages, they dress well, their style, right? They look presentable. They don't have sexy red. Africans don't listen to sexy red. So until y'all get a control of your community, right, and actually start to build and actually start to, spend your dollars within your culture, within, no, and it's not discrimination. It's just all the cultures do this. You get Ukrainians coming to the country, they have their Ukrainian cultural areas. They know where to shop for their fruits and vegetables. They know people that speak their language, this and that. You have Chinese, same thing. You have Lebanese, same thing. Everybody does that except FBA, and it's supposed to be their country. The FBA should have the most established infrastructure, but they have the least. How is that possible? Think about that. How is it possible that FBA's been in the country the whole time, claim that they are native? A lot of them are claiming they're native, which is completely delusional. Some Black Americans were native, but most are African, right? And even the ones that are quote unquote native are African descent. They either walked across the Bering Strait when they were doing explorations, or they were on ships as well, right? There's documentation of African exploration, African explorers, right? People see pyramids all over the world, don't want to talk about that. Just gonna say, oh, aliens built it, oh, this, that. No, Africans were all around the world. So there were some Africans in America, don't get me wrong. But y'all can't all cling to that. And you that's not your life. It's nice to think about. It's nice stories to tell your kids, you at holidays, you share these stories, right? But you can't shape your identity on that. That's not feasible.